Okay, so can I be honest? Can I be honest? You clicked on this video, so you know that I'm going to be talking about Enchantra by Kaylie Smith, but can I just say that I love this book? An unhealthy obsession is what I have with this book. I don't know what it did to me. I'm pretty sure that Kaylie Smith lined all of the pages with drugs because I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about Genevieve and Rowan and their story and the Silver siblings, and I cannot wait to yap to you about it. So, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cynthia if you are new here, and let's start with a summary in case you're not familiar. So before I talk more about Enchantra, I do just want to point out that Enchantra is the second book in the Wicked Games series, and it comes after Phantasma, which is the first book. And the first book, Phantasma, features our main character, Ophelia, who is Genevieve's older sister, Genevieve being our main character in Enchantra. Pretty much, Ophelia goes into Phantasma to get Genevieve back. Genevieve enters to find out more about their family and their parents, because at the beginning of Phantasma, their mother has unfortunately passed away, and so Ophelia has taken over the family business of necromancy, and Genevieve is very much struggling with not knowing much about their mother or their father and really just their whole lineage. And so she goes into Phantasma to find out more. Ophelia follows her in to get her back, and a lot of shit happens. I do also have a review on this book. I'll link it up here like I always do. I also just wanted to mention that the author has said that these books are considered standalones, so you technically can read Enchantra without reading Phantasma, but I wouldn't recommend it just because there's so much that happens in Phantasma that going into Enchantra without that kind of background knowledge is going to leave some parts feeling very confusing, especially when it comes to Genevieve and her relationship with Ophelia. I think it's very important to have read more about them in their relationship in Phantasma before jumping right into Enchantra. Enchantra picks up a little bit after the events of Phantasma. Genevieve, Blackwell, and Ophelia are on vacation in Italy, and this is also where Genevieve takes advantage of her correspondence with Barrington Silver. Barrington Silver knew Ophelia and Genevieve's mother, Tessie, but like I kind of mentioned a moment ago, Ophelia was the eldest sister, so when their mother passed away, Ophelia took over the family business, leaving Genevieve to kind of feel very lost and kind of like where do I belong? Where is my place in the world? What am I supposed to be doing? Because for Ophelia, it was always, you're going to take over the family business. Whereas Genevieve was just kind of like the spare and she could do whatever she wanted. So Genevieve has been corresponding with Barrington Silver, and Barrington actually invites her to his estate before the spring equinox. Genevieve, however, has horrible timing and shows up on spring equinox, which is pretty much too late because Barrington and his 7 children, the Silver siblings, are trapped in a deadly game of hide and seek, cat and mouse, whatever you want to call it, that they play year after year, pretty much to escape being in hell. Whoever wins doesn't have to go back to hell for the next year until they play the game all over again. But when Genevieve shows up to the estate, she is greeted by Rowington Silver, who is not very friendly. He pretty much tells Genevieve to F off, and Genevieve doesn't, and that's really what sets the whole story in motion. And what then proceeds to happen is essentially deadly games, a fake marriage, slow burn, tension, a really nice found family. All right, can I just get the elephant out of the room before I start yapping about how much I enjoyed this book? It's not super plot heavy. It really is a character driven story in my opinion. There's so much going on with all of the characters and they're all written very well that I feel like they end up kind of overriding the plot, even though I'm sure the author didn't mean for them to kind of do that, but they did in my opinion. There isn't really any world building. This whole story takes place within the estate. It's very similar to Phantasma. In Phantasma we were in New Orleans and in Enchantra we're in Italy, but we're not really sightseeing or going out anywhere. Instead, we are playing Deadly Trials in an estate again, which is fine, which genuinely is fine. These aren't epic fantasies. You don't need a big map. You don't really need world building. So in this instance, it works. And I will say there are a ton of tropes, and that's why I kind of say that these books are more character driven than plot driven, just because the use of so many tropes and how fleshed out and well done the characters are, in my opinion, that just kind of gives me the feeling that the plot is there. The plot is there, but it's not really the main focus. It's not what I think about all the time. So now that the elephant has been pushed out of the room, let's get into what I did absolutely love about these books. I did like the atmosphere of Enchantra. Was it as gothic and atmospheric as Phantasma? No, not really, and I don't really want to compare the two books, but I did like the atmosphere. I also very much enjoyed the writing. I know some people were kind of iffy on the writing, but I liked the writing. And there were so many like little parts of this book that I could see the author setting up for the third book, which makes me really, really excited. I think this is one of the few series where I've actually liked every single book so far. Like second book syndrome where? Like sequel book syndrome where? It's not here. Enchantra doesn't have it. I was kind of nervous because there have been a lot of times where I've picked up a sequel and it just has not been good. And this is not the case. If anything, Enchantra has the opposite of second sequel syndrome in that it is fantastic, and I liked it so much more than I liked Phantasma. I did rate Phantasma fairly highly, but I mean 6 stars out of 5 stars for Enchantra, like that's kind of through the roof. And to be honest, I don't really have too many thoughts in terms of like plot aspects or plot wise, because like I said, to me this book really isn't plot heavy. It's not plot driven. There are obviously storylines. There are obviously things happening and there are reasons why those things are happening. But to me, it was really about the characters. It was about the Silver siblings, the Grimm siblings, the devils involved, and really just the games that we play to save the ones that we love. So let's just talk into the characters because I can't wait to talk about Rowan. So like I mentioned, Phantasma focuses on Ophelia as our main character. Ophelia is Genevieve's older sister, and I really love Ophelia. Don't get me wrong, I love both Grimm sisters equally, but I think I love Ophelia more because I relate to her. She's the eldest, she has OCD, she overthinks everything, she never thinks she's good enough, she has a lot of pressure on her shoulders being the eldest, and there was just something about that I related to. Actually, I related to everything. I'm lying. Genevieve wasn't as relatable to me just because she's the younger sister. She's very headstrong. She's very determined. She asks like a million questions and talks a million miles a minute. And I love that for her, but it wasn't super relatable. But I did like Genevieve because she is a plus size female main character, and that was actually kind of a nice change of pace. I wasn't expecting that. But like I also mentioned, Genevieve is feeling very lost. The whole reason why she shows up at the Silver Estate is because she wants answers. She wants to know more about her mother. She's feeling very lost, and she's trying to figure out where she belongs in the world. And that's when she meets Rowington, aka Rowan. And he's quite a jerk at first, but he very quickly turns that frown upside down and becomes quite sarcastic and charming. And I just love how respectful he was of Genevieve. They do end up in a marriage of convenience because he wants to win the game. She just wants to get out alive. And so even though she's not thrilled about it at first, they do start to find common ground with each other, which was something that I found I really liked. I did like how their relationship unfolded. Like neither was perfect, but I did love that despite the fact that they were all trying to, off each other, that there was a very nice aspect of found family. It's funny because Rowan is written with 6 other siblings. He's always been around people, and yet he also himself feels lost like Genevieve. And it's something that they really connect over, and it's something that I really liked about their just whole relationship and dynamic. I found I really liked it. I'm getting kind of sappy. But I think aside from the whole marriage of convenience and my wife, the found family trope was done very, very well in Enchantra. Also, all of the Silver siblings were written out very, very well. Like, even though there were 7 of them, they all had very distinct personalities. And if Genevieve had a thought about one of them but didn't say their name, I kind of knew who she was talking about just because they were all so just individual and had their own personalities and things that made them individualistic. And I actually really liked that, if what I said just made sense. I also kind of want to test myself to see if I can remember all of their names. There's 7. There's Gravington, Covington, Rowington, and Remington are twins. Sevington, Wellington, and Ellington. Is that right? Gravington, Covington, Remington, Wellington, Sevington, Wellington, Ellington. Or Grave, Coven, Remy, Rowan, Seven, Wells, Ellen. Ayy! They all have such horrendous names. They all have such horrendous names, if I'm being honest, and shortening them does make them a little bit better. But like I said, they all had such distinct personalities, and I also like that this book, again, had the kind of animal friend aspect to it. And don't get me wrong, Poe will always have a place in my heart. Okay, if you read Phantasma, you know. If you didn't, I'm sorry, you don't know. But Poe will always have a place in my heart. But Umbra is sneaking up there, okay? Like that sneaky little fox, that cutie little fox, she's sneaking up there. And Phantasma was also very spicy. And there's a scene with the bed and the ceiling. Again, if you know, you know. But Enchantra has a mirror scene. And if you know, you know. And I think I like that one more. But we do also have some side characters in the form of the devil, whose name I can't remember, which is kind of surprising because I remember all of the siblings' names, but I can't remember. Knox, I found it, sorry. There's also the devil Knox, who Barrington has sort of like tied himself to, and Knox is the one who hosts the game every year. He crowns the winner every year, and he takes bets, kind of like Hunger Games style, on who's gonna win. Viewers can also vote on their favorite like silver sibling that they, want to win favor, and it's all just very Ron. But other than that, there aren't really that many side characters. It really does focus on the Silver family and Genevieve, and I just really loved the found family dynamic. I know I've said it like 8 times, but I really loved it. But overall, honestly, like this book was such a vibe. I don't think every book has to be super like meaningful or momentous or, makes you think really hard. I think sometimes the best books are the ones that maybe the writing isn't the best, maybe the plot line and the storyline isn't the strongest, but it really just pulls you in anyway, and you become obsessed with it. And Enchantra is one of those books. Is it a literary masterpiece? Are like great-great-grandchildren going to be reading it in school? No. I mean, I hope not. That would be very concerning. It is a fun book. It is a fun story, and I can't recommend it enough. The whole Wicked Games series so far, to be honest with you, both Phantasma and Enchantra, like I just had so much fun. I will say Phantasma took me a minute to get into, just because being in Ophelia's head was really hard, because it was kind of like being in my head, and I don't like being in my head. So I did struggle a little bit with that kind of aspect of the story. And Genevieve is very different than Ophelia, so I feel like most people will like Genevieve more than Ophelia. Eldest daughter to eldest daughter, like Ophelia. I feel you, girl. I feel you. But honestly, I had such a fun time. I can't recommend this series enough. If you haven't read this series, definitely read these series. I believe both books are on Kindle Unlimited, so if you don't feel like going to the store and shelling out money for copies, you can definitely read them on Kindle Unlimited. And then if you like them, get copies. But I mean, honestly, if you like, a lot of people have said these books are dark fantasy romance, but they're not really dark. They're more gothic. And gothic as in like One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig gothic. They're not really too dark. Phantasma's a little darker than Enchantra, but kind of loses me there. But I mean, if you like tropes like Marriage of Convenience, My Wife, Touch Her, You Die, One Bed, Found Family, those kind of things, all the pretty standard generic fantasy romance tropes, if you eat them up like I do, Shadow Daddy, you'll like this book. Also, I didn't mention Rowan is a shadow daddy, and he actually uses his shadows on Genevieve. Can I just, okay? But honestly, like, Phantasma was a vibe, Enchantra was an even bigger vibe. If you haven't read it, definitely go read them. Like, I can't stop thinking about them. I can't stop talking about them. I want to reread this book very soon. I have a kind of long TBR at the moment, but as soon as I get the opportunity, definitely going to give this book a reread, because it was just so much fun. It was just so much fun. Like, that's all that matters sometimes. And like I said, 6 stars out of 5 stars, because for me to literally start a book on a Friday night and finish it by like Saturday morning, there are no words. Like, it's just such a testament to how much fucking fun I had reading this book. Also, something that I didn't mention, I'm just gonna cradle the book for a minute because my arm is tired, but something I also didn't mention is that the book is split into all these like little chapters, and they kind of feel like, when you're watching like a murder mystery like Clue or Knives Out would probably be a better comparison, and it just felt like each chapter was like cutting to like the intro of the scene, and then it was playing, and then it would cut again, and like intro of the scene, and then we would go into the scene, and it was just, I don't know, it just felt so much, it just made the book so much more fun. It kind of made it feel so much more like a movie, like playing in my head, than just reading a story. I don't know, it was just so much fun. I feel like I'm doing such a bad job at articulating how much I love this book, and I hate that for me, and I hate that for you. 6 stars out of 5 stars for Enchantra. You don't have to read Phantasma first, but I definitely recommend it. And honestly, I'm just gonna stop because I'm talking in circles at this point. But I just had so much fun. I do also have my book review, which I probably has a few more thoughts than I put here. I will also link my blog article if you're interested in reading my thoughts about this book, but I pretty much said in this video what I said in the article, so there's pretty decent overlap. You're not really missing much in one or the other, but as always, thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye!